So, David, we found out literally, half an hour ago, that Justin Trudeau's phone call with Donald Trump, according to Justin Trudeau, went quite well. And we got the same treatment today from Donald Trump that Mexico got. Those tariffs, those threatened tariffs, are off the board for 1 month. Let me hear your reaction to that.
Well, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but I was kind of hoping for this type of development. It goes back to last week. Remember what he did with Colombia, right? Threatens tariffs against Colombia. If he doesn't get what he wants, there's a deal that's made, and there won't be military planes bringing back Colombian nationals. It's going to be commercial flights and no tariffs. Now, yesterday, you kind of got a sense something was happening when last night Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social and said it in a scrum with media saying, there might be a little pain for Americans if we go through with these tariffs. And then this morning, you have the Wall Street Journal, which cannot be mistaken for any kind of Democratic Party outlet, or the New York Times. This is a Rupert Murdoch-owned paper saying it's the dumbest trade war in history. And you have the markets, the Dow futures and the markets opening down at 9:30 over 1%, just on the possibility that Donald Trump will go ahead with these tariffs. And let's remember, while he does have control of both houses of Congress, he can only spare 4 senators in the Senate and 2 representatives in the House. And with the complexity, and it's been laid out over the past few days and weeks, ever since this threat was becoming more and more real, the complexities of the integration of both the Canadian and U.S. economy, and how much the U.S. economy is quite dependent on the Canadian economy for a lot of what makes the U.S. run. There was this realization, I think, that going after both Canada and Mexico the way Trump was going, this was going to mean more inflation. This was going to mean economic uncertainty for a president who, at this point, has the feeling that he's just piling up wins on top of wins. But the minute Congress has to start legislating, and the pressure is put on these states. Over 20 states have as primary economic partner Canada. So this is not like playing around with Colombia, and the same thing with Mexico. So he's getting concessions. He's saving face. He's getting 10,000 troops from Mexico. He's getting a $1.4 billion package from Justin Trudeau on border security. But I think right now, at this point, the huff and puff and these completely unrealistic claims that he's been making just hit the road last night and this morning with the market. And he does listen to the market. He is very, very in tune with what goes on with the Dow Jones, with the stock market, with inflation. And I think that just caught up with him, actually. And so he's trying to save face here. Now, that doesn't mean down the road he won't make some other irrational accusation. We'll see what happens in March. But I'm just saying that there seems to have been some sort of reckoning in the last 24 hours that kind of said, hold on a second, this may not go smoothly. This may not be a clear-cut win. Because let's remember, Donald Trump, Aaron, and this is known, he doesn't read. He doesn't analyze. He doesn't take briefings. He doesn't know the facts behind very complex trade relationships like the one that Canada has with the U.S. He doesn't understand that for many major U.S. companies, there are a lot of issues at play with these 25% tariffs, and there are U.S. jobs at play, and there's inflation at play. And so I think a lot of those roosters came home to roost, actually.
I just want to bring up one point. I don't know if you happened to see Robert Lighthizer on 60 Minutes last night, but he was the major, right, the lead U.S. trade representative back in the first Trump administration. I don't want to say he's crazy with respect to what he thinks this whole trade issue and tariffs are all about, but it became very clear during that interview that this is where Donald Trump is getting his information and why he's so adamant on this.
Well, let's be clear here. One of the fundamental tenets of the MAGA movement is the predicate that the United States has been giving it away to the rest of the world for decades. Basically, that on trade, military power, you name it, the so-called decline of the United States is based on the fact that the U.S. has been letting everybody slide on the workers' dime. That is a fundamental tenet. But his Treasury Secretary, his brand new Treasury Secretary, just a year ago, was saying if you want to build back America's industrial greatness, you don't impose tariffs. And he won in a lot of states. The number one issue that brought Trump back to power last November was inflation. And so I agree with you. He's surrounded by people, yes men and just all around just crazy people. But it is a fundamental tenet. And so it's part of the religion. It's part of the cult. And so, but once in a while, you face reality. And I think there is a lot of this having to do with the fact that even his key players in the U.S. economy, those CEOs and those people that are movers and shakers in the stock market and also in the Senate and in the House of Representatives say, Mr. President, hold on a second, something's going to happen here and you won't like it.
Yeah, maybe instead of the word crazy, I should have used the word ultra hawk. But I just when you hear it, it's mind-boggling.
I think it's a technical term in this case.
Yeah, technically I meant crazy. David, one last thing. So we know we're going to hear from the premier. I think he's actually speaking right now. We'll play some of that back. Does this buy us time for anything? I mean, we have all this reaction, first of all, from ago. What happens now?
Well, I think right now, I think there's going to be a lot of behind-the-scenes negotiations with maybe more serious people on both sides. And I think it's going to be very interesting because early March, you're going to be days away from Canada having a new prime minister, right? Because we're going to have a new prime minister on March 9th. So this is going to be surreal in terms of the context of this. If the March deadline is still a real thing by then, but I think there's going to have some conversations. I still think defense spending is a big issue for Donald Trump. One of the reasons why he keeps talking about that, I know he adds on when he talks about 51st states and talks about agriculture and all this, but that's pure ignorance. That's when he talks about cars, he doesn't understand that it's actually U.S. companies that are benefiting mostly from the auto pact and the auto parts sector. Same thing with aluminum, et cetera, and agriculture and energy, oil, for example. That even if the U.S. is the biggest oil producer and exporter in the world right now, it actually imports our oil to go to the U.S. refineries to actually power the gas cars in the U.S. Yeah. That's the mechanics. It sounds weird, but that's how a modern economy works. So the idea right now is I think there's going to be some more negotiations, and it's going to be about being able to, for us, to stave off those disastrous tariffs, and on the other side, for Donald Trump to be able to score wins, just like he has today. That's what he's spinning today. He said, look, I got 10,000 troops from Mexico. Look, I got 1.4 billion on immigration and fentanyl from the Canadians.
All right. And that's where we leave it. David, thank you. The day's not over, by the way.
No, it's not.
David Heurtel. David, thanks so much.